This is Sexy Funny Raw, where we chat all about the world of sex, from dating and relationships all the way to the adult industry itself. I'm Silvia Saige, and this is my Pornspective, answering all the questions you weren't even brave enough to ask Google. Get ready, because Sexy Funny Raw starts now. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. I am your host, Silvia Saige. This is Sexy Funny Raw, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Eddie, in studio, giving us his public health perspective. Thank you, Dr. Eddie. And I'm so very excited to welcome back into studio Lexi Smith, adult performer, brand new into the industry, and just killing it, you guys. Like, this girl is just making splashes into the industry, and you can see why. She's stunningly beautiful. And we just found out on the last episode that you are a mom.
I am. Yes.
And you are a mom to 3 beautiful children.
I am, yes.
And something a lot of people don't talk about is being a real mom and working in sex work. Not that there aren't a lot of moms out there who are working in sex work, but you and I had the conversation prior that some of these mothers either don't mention their children even exist or just kind of don't promote it. You know, I know a lot of people who will put pictures of their kids, but it's just like the back of their head or their kids' feet or something like that, you know, saying I am a mother, but it's not something that they're boisterous about. And in the opposite, the outside world is incredibly boisterous as to sex workers being mothers. Yes. So, first off, how old are your kids?
15, 12, and 7.
And your 15-year-old is a girl?
Yes.
And then is your middle, the 12, is a boy?
Boy, yeah.
Okay. And then youngest is a girl again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So first off, do they know?
So the oldest one knows, 100%
Okay.
knows. The other 2 don't know yet.
15 is a significant age. I mean, I was having sex at 15. I know that, I was the last one of my friends to be having sex at 15.
I was too. You know what's funny? I was too.
Yeah.
And that's hilarious because, like, I remember my friends at, like, 13 were all having sex, and they're like, you're the only virgin.
Yes.
Why don't you have sex?
Yeah.
Now here I am, a porn star.
Yeah.
I'm like, really, bitches? Really?
Got what you wanted now, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you've had the conversation with the 15-year-old because obviously,
Yes.
I mean, at this point, you are very Googleable. You know,
Yes.
It's very easy to find out what you do and who you are.
Correct.
So, of course, having that conversation, because I'm sure some of their friends might even have seen it at
for
this
sure.
point.
Yeah.
So how did that conversation go?
So the way it came about was she found out initially on her own. She went through my phone.
Yikes.
And saw my Instagram and stuff. Obviously, I had really slutty pictures on Instagram. And she asked me about it. And, you know, my thing was I wanted to always be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like as long as you're always honest, even if it hurts, you're able to carry on a conversation with some level of vulnerability, knowing like, hey, at least this person's being honest. So I was very honest. I was like, listen. Like, at that time, I was doing OnlyFans, and I was like, you know, your mom does OnlyFans. That's, like, how I pay the bills. And kids have no concept of money.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, not even 15-year-olds.
No.
Yeah.
So she was, like, 14 at the time. It's no concept of money, but I'm like, I'm a single mom of 3. I own my own house in my own name. I don't get child support. Like, I am holding it down through sex work, you know? And so I tried to explain that to her. At first, she didn't take it very well. She was very, like, sensitive about it all. And I believe part of that is the way I parent her. It's very hard. Like, for instance, I'm pretty strict in the sense that I believe in preserving the innocence of children. So I was very strict about, like, music she listens to, movies she watches. Like, she'd be 13 and want to watch PG-13 movies that I'd look up what's in it, and I'd be like, no, honey, like, I don't care if you're 13. I don't think that's appropriate. Now, most moms aren't like that. At least where I live, most moms aren't. So for her to have a mom that's more strict than other moms, and then find out
Yeah.
she's
I can see
banging
that.
people for money? Like, that is a hard pill to swallow, to be like, what? Like,
why were you so strict on me?
right, you're so strict on me over here. You're taking dick for money. Like, that's a hard pill to swallow. So, so I think it made it a little harder for her to process based on how I parent her. It made it even harder. But, you know, like after a couple months, she was very understanding, more so than I expected. And she was just like now she's just like, I get it. Like, I'm still strict with her. She's 15. Like, I'm like, you know, you're 15. You're still going to have rules. You're still going to have boundaries. Right. Like,
you're still her mom. At the end of the day, you don't stop being a mom.
Might be fucking XYZ. That don't mean you're out fucking XYZ. Like, you know? So, yeah, it was hard at first when she first found out, but definitely now she understands. And you had brought up, like, oh, I'm Googleable, this and that. So on my Instagram, I just, New England Chick is my username. I write New England underneath. I don't use my porn name on there strictly because I know sometimes, like, people from her high school are seeing my Instagram and they're seeing that stuff. So if I used my porn name, they'd be able to Google me and see stuff. Where because I don't put my porn name on there, they can see me and they know I do porn. Like, I promote, this is my OnlyFans. I promote that I do mainstream porn, but they're not necessarily able to Google me. Now, does that mean they will never be able to? No, there's always that possibility, but it just lessens the possibility by not having it right there on there. So yeah.
What would you say? Because obviously people, when they think of a mom doing sex work, they're going to think negative things. They're going to say you're a bad influence. They're going to say that, you know, like, I'm sure you get the question all the time, would you want your daughter doing this? Because, you know, people say that to me all the time online. I don't actually have any children, but that's the thing. They're so like, oh, you should be so ashamed of yourself, and like, oh, you know, what are your kids going to think? Like, what do you say to those people?
So, I have a couple answers. So my ex-husband's girlfriend, he's been with her since we broke up. It's been like 7 years. But she found my OnlyFans, and she actually sent it to a couple of parents of my 15-year-old daughter's friends. So at the time, she was like 13, 14, and this girl like sent my OnlyFans. And, you know, obviously she thought it was like, oh, I'm going to show him she's a piece of crap mom, blah, blah, blah. But these parents actually reached out to me, and they were like, hey, she sent me your OnlyFans, and like, I didn't know how to feel about it, but I do know, like, you parent differently. Like, one of the moms was like, you know, my daughter slept at your house, and you called me to ask if they were able to watch a PG-13 movie, if I gave permission for that, even though both our daughters are 13. She was like, most moms don't do that. So clearly what you do for work doesn't affect who you are as a parent.
That's good.
And that's my thing. That's something that, like, if I could share anything with anyone, it would be like, being a sex worker doesn't affect your parenting. They're two different things. This is my work. This is my parenting. You know, it's like, it's two totally different things. It's like if I owned a pot shop and I was like, yeah, buy weed from me. I sell the best weed. That doesn't mean I'm going home and giving my 13-year-old weed. Right. It's different. It's like, this is my work and this is my parenting. And a lot of people struggle to separate the two.
Yeah. What do you think that is, Dr. Eddie? Why do you think that people do take it to where, like, what we were talking earlier, you can either be one or the other? Why do you think they...
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, honestly. We could probably start with the Madonna whore kind of dichotomy, where you have to be one or the other, right? And so it's really hard for a lot of people to see people more complex than just, if you're one thing, let's say the Madonna, which is virginal and pure, which is what people want theoretically, but it's not necessarily what they're attracted to. The flip side of that could be the whore, even though I think whore is a horrible...
It is. I don't like the term.
I don't like the term. But the whore just means sexual and promiscuous, and, you know, I wish we had a better word, perhaps. Specifically when we're talking like the psychology of it, right? And so this goes back few hundred years at this point, and it's been prevalent for a long time. And again, people like to be put in boxes.
Yeah.
Or rather, people like to put other people in boxes.
Of course.
And so because of that, it's really, really difficult to separate motherhood with all of those other things of being sexual and stuff. These same reasons or these same threads.
Which sex is how they became mothers. Which is
Absolutely.
so crazy.
Well, but not only is it how they became mothers, but
Yeah.
it was like a lot of men historically and currently want the sexual woman, want like promiscuous in bed or that excitement, but then that may or may not be the same woman that you want to introduce to your family. And so it's like, who do I want to have sex with versus who do I want to marry? Also placing women in these weird places that don't take in their agency and the fluidity of the complexity of our lives. Nobody is just one thing. No one is just a mother.
Right.
And no one is just a sex worker. It doesn't make any sense to even think that way. But there's a long history of thinking that way, right? And it stems from religion. It stems from lots of reasons. And so...
You grew up Catholic, right?
Yes.
That's what you said?
I did,
I can only imagine the thoughts you had on sex and sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and in New England as well, there's very specific cultural things that are like somewhat old-fashioned in a lot of ways. And that might be a little bit less here in LA, but there's lots of parts in this country alone, not to mention other countries. And so I would say that only recently are we having these conversations, and we've said it a ton of times in our podcast, but the nuance of people and of all of these things, sexuality or sensuality, all of those things have a lot of nuance. The same way that everybody has a lot of nuance. And like Lexi was mentioning, I can absolutely understand how someone could be a dancer or a stripper or a sex worker, and it's completely different from how they interact with their children,
of course,
but also how they interact with their spouses and how they interact with their families, right? And so separating those things, I think, is super interesting how people do it. But society at large doesn't think in nuanced ways typically. Right? It's you are a sex worker, then you can't be a mother. You can't have sex for love. You can't enjoy kissing. Like all of these weird rules that people put on to sex workers, which aren't realistic and are absolutely absurd.
Do you think, because I'm only asking this because you said your 15-year-old found out first, do you think that you waited too long with her? Do you think that with your 12-year-old you'll say something sooner, or do you think you'll still kind of wait it out?
I'll probably wait it out. Okay. With my 15-year-old, I waited it out. My 12-year-old is a boy. He's such a mama's boy. I feel like, but in a good way, in a sense that, like, I feel like when he finds out, I feel like he's going to take it even better than my 15-year-old. He's just
better? We'll take it better.
Yeah, I think he'll just be like, Mom, that's like... the way he is, he'll just be like, Mom, that's what you do for work. Who cares? Like, that's his personality. He's just going to be like, whatever. He's not going to care. So I'm not really concerned about him finding out.
What about, because I feel like this is a very common question also, what about if their friends find out and, like, find you?
So my 15-year-old, people in her school have found me. A guy I worked with, I don't really use Twitter that much. I think I have like 3 photos on there and they're like PG. But
not PG-13?
PG-13, like PG. But somebody tagged my Twitter and some kid from my daughter's school found it, and it was like a little, not the whole movie, but just like a little clip of me sucking his dick, whatever. And you know, my daughter came home and she was like, Jay was sharing that video of you sucking that guy's dick to everyone at school. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, did you tell me?
Was she mad at you or mad at them? Or just mad at the whole situation?
I think she was mad at the whole situation, but more so mad at them. And she was like, can you take it down? I was like, babe, I don't share stuff like that. You look at my Twitter, I don't share that. And she's like, oh, can you ask them to take it down? And like, we kind of had a little like sit down talk where it was like, you know, on one hand, it's like, this is what your mom does for work. Like, not to sound insensitive, I hate that people are sharing this and it's hurting your feelings. Also, at the same time, in life, at some point, you have to get to a point in life, whether you're 15, 22, 35, you have to get to a point where you say, people are going to say things that hurt my feelings. People are going to do things on purpose to put me down. But how am I going to cope with that? How am I going to say, listen, you doing what you do isn't going to affect my peace. It's not going to affect who I am as a person. Whatever you want to do, I can't control what you do. All I can control is, like, how I see myself, how I view myself, and, like,
I feel like that's teaching her a really valuable lesson, though, because at the end of the day, that is exactly what it's going to be like in the real world. And I say it all the time. It wouldn't matter what I was doing in the world. Someone would find a reason to dislike me or hate something I was doing. So you just cannot make everybody happy. You can make yourself happy, and that's it at the end of the day.
I had a friend in high school that was bullied hardcore. She was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, perfect body, and honestly, I think people bullied her because she was intimidating.
Yeah.
She was so freaking beautiful. It was intimidating. And, like, I just remember people would, like, leave stickers on her locker, like, you're a whore, like, on her locker for everyone to see. Just all this awful stuff. She did nothing wrong. And she was so introverted and so quiet. And, like, I felt so bad. And I'm like, she would cry. And I'm like, dude, you're literally the most beautiful thing in this school.
Aww.
Like, what the heck? But my point in sharing that is that it doesn't matter what you're working with, whether you're working with your mom being a porn star, you're the most beautiful girl in the school, your dad's a janitor, or your mom's obese. Like, there's so many things in this world people can make fun of you. It could be as simple as you're the most beautiful thing there, and people will put you down.
Yeah.
So it's like a life lesson of how do you deal with people in this world, like, trying to put you down.
Yeah.
It's a self-reflection moment where you need to say, hey, I don't give a shit what you say, quite frankly.
Yeah. People were calling me a whore when I was still a virgin. I moved high schools.
Girl,
yeah.
Same. Oh my gosh, we got so
I had to move high schools because people were so mean to me at my first high school, and they were like calling me a whore and a slut. And I'm like, I hadn't even made out with a boy until after my freshman year of high school. And I was like the town whore to everybody. I was like, what? It's mind blowing.
All my friends had sex at 13 in like 7th grade. And I remember my freshman year, everybody was calling me a whore, and all I had done was make out.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen a dick outside of porn.
Yeah.
I've never touched a dick, never seen a dick. What?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy that how labels are going to go on you regardless.
Yes.
I was a whore long before I ever was actually taking money for sex. So.
Well, I mean,
I was a professional whore.
Yeah.
I would probably also add that using those kind of terms is probably a way to take away your power,
of course,
and certainly to place you in a box.
Yeah.
Right? Because maybe you have a lot of agency, or you're overconfident.
Yeah.
Right? And so we have historically those
or they
labels,
think
like that
you're going to
bitch
be
label.
confident. Yes.
Right. Well, that bitch label, or that whore label, all of those things have nothing to do with actually being a whore,
right,
or actually being any of those things. And I think it's interesting that that's still happening today, but it's a really valuable lesson, I think, that we can teach our kids.
Yes.
Right? Because that is life.
Yeah. And I think it's a valuable lesson you're teaching your kids, that you can be sexual and be a mom, and it's okay. Yeah. Like, it's huge.
And this was something that I did say to my 15-year-old. I was like, what I'm doing is an adult thing.
Yes.
It's not wrong. Nobody's getting hurt.
Yeah.
Everything I do is consensual.
Yeah.
No one's getting hurt. It's not like I'm dealing drugs where people are dying or getting addicted. There's nothing bad to what I'm doing. It's all consensual, and it's all adult. Just like I said, like smoking weed, drinking alcohol. It's legal at a certain age.
Right.
Not when you're 15, it's not.
Right.
Same with sex. It's like, as an adult, having sex
with other adults,
with other
consenting
adults.
Yes, consenting
no one's
adults.
Getting hurt. I'm not like...
Yeah.
I'm not hitting on your friend's dad trying to steal him from his wife. No one's getting hurt. I'm not.
Not unless it's in a movie.
I mean, if it's a movie, maybe. But no.
Speaking of that, do you have a hard... What I was going to ask, if you have a hard time with some of the family storylines, but do you play a mom? Are you getting MILF roles right now, or are you just getting hot chick roles?
I'm shooting for a MILFie in a couple weeks.
Okay.
So I'll have a MILFie role. But
how do you feel about that? How do you feel
like
about
it at all.
Okay, that doesn't like
to me it's okay. The way I look at it is, this is acting. And I love sex. Don't get me wrong. I love sex, but it's still acting.
It is, yeah.
And that's one of the funniest things with OnlyFans is like some of my videos, I'll be acting. It'll be like a guy I just fucked yesterday for a video, and I'll be like, oh, I found this guy at the bar, and I brought him in the bathroom and sucked his dick. And everyone's like, oh, you sucked a stranger's dick. And it makes me laugh. It drives me crazy. I'm like, because I'm like responding. I'm like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I sucked that stranger's dick. But like these guys believe it. So that just makes me think of
That's part of the fantasy too,
It is a part of the fantasy.
It's part of the fantasy, sure.
Even if they don't necessarily believe it, they're like, that's hot.
They want to believe it.
Yeah, because in their mind, they're like, play it out. I would love to be the guy who met you at the bar.
Yeah, but like same with mainstream. So it's like whatever the role play is, I'm into it. I'm like, let's go.
I love the role play too. Like it doesn't bother me to be, I don't have children, but people always ask like, does that bother you? I'm like, it did in the very beginning only because I was like, it was my day one and I wasn't ready for somebody to call me mom yet. But
like, I'm too young for this.
Yeah. But now I'm like, oh, like it doesn't bother me at all. Like I can totally like, to me, I'm not talking to a person when I'm just like, I'm just saying things. So to me, they're just words. Like I don't, I don't have a husband, so I certainly don't have stepkids. So it's not like I'm thinking of anybody when I'm saying these things. Like I'm just saying them. To me, it's the same as like I'm telling you I'm going to come when I'm not. It's the same thing. So
I was dating this guy for like casually dating for a very short period of time. And he checked out my OnlyFans and he bought a video I had dropped. And in the video, I can swear, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So I was just like, oh, tell me I'm your dirty little cum slut. Yeah. And he was like, you like being called a dirty cum slut? I was like, babe, it was a video. And he was like, no, but I saw your face. You loved it. I was like, dude, if you watch Scarface, are you going to look at Al Pacino and be like, hey, you killed your sister. You're a cokehead. Right. No, you're going to be like, Al Pacino's an actor. Yeah. You are not going to meet him in real life and be like, you killed your sister, bro.
Yeah. I think he just became a dad again.
He did.
He did?
He's like 80, I think.
Oh, my God.
Meeting him and being like, dude, you're a fucking cokehead and you killed your sister. I hate you. Yeah. You wouldn't because you're like,
some people would acting. Though. But some people would because they don't grasp.
Well, but I tried to explain that's the same thing with porn. Like, if we're acting, I'm glad that when you watch it, you believe it. I want you to believe it when you watch it.
Agreed.
That means I'm doing a good job. Yeah. However, if you think Al Pacino's a cokehead,
which he might be, who knows? I don't know. It's Los Angeles.
Killed his sister, and you also think I'm a dirty little cum slut. That's whatever. It's just like you gotta like differentiate between the like be in the moment for the acting part for sure.
Yeah.
Just like during watching movies, you're not like, he's just acting. No, you're into it. You're like, yeah.
You fall in love with the characters.
You're like, yeah. But also, no, it's mattress acting.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Dr. Eddie, what is the science behind it? So I want to know, like, what is the science behind people having a problem with motherhood and sex?
I mean, the virgin is the ideal that you want to marry, but it also on the flip side becomes once someone has given birth, they become like a different kind of
They're maternal and not sexual.
Absolutely. And so it can, and it often does, or maybe not often, but it sometimes becomes a problem in relationships where it becomes hard to have sex again.
Yeah.
Because now you view this person that just did the most incredible thing that a human can do, which is give birth to another one.
Yeah.
And all of these incredible changes that occur, all of a sudden you start viewing people in a very, very different way because you're not taking into account that a couple months later she's going to be horny again.
Yeah.
And like she's a complex human that wants to masturbate and that probably should immediately and all of those good things, right? And so, I mean, there's a lot of theories as to why these things have occurred. I'd say that like culture and history have taught us that we like to place people in boxes. It feels like that's the theme today. But
we're in boxes. I don't know. I just find it very interesting that we take away a woman's sexuality, like honestly, in her sexual prime.
Well,
you know?
I agree.
We also do that with
agree.
breastfeeding, right? And that's like a weird example here, but a lot of men are incredibly uncomfortable in this country.
That's true, and that's so weird.
True. I breastfed all 3 of my kids, and I can't tell you how many people were like so uncomfortable about it.
But why?
I was very like, listen, my boobs make milk and my kids are drinking my milk. I don't give a fuck. If you're uncomfortable, I'm not covering up.
They're also just a part of the body, and men also have nipples. Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think it's because we historically and currently
Overly
over sexualize
Yeah.
everything,
Yes.
especially about women. And
Yeah.
so breasts are for sex, even though they're also
They
for
can
sex.
be for both.
Right,
though.
but
They
of course
can
they
be
are,
for both.
because they have a biological function.
Yeah.
But no one, or a lot of people, are very uncomfortable with it. I was just traveling abroad recently, and breastfeeding just happens wherever it happens.
Yes, of course, because the
and-
baby is hungry.
Right, period. And, and it doesn't matter in a lot of places, but it's always been an issue in
In the States.
for
Yeah.
sure, even though there's a lot of pushback and there's a lot of at least discussions with it now. But we live in a society that's a little bit puritanical and a little bit over religious, no matter how much we like to say these things are different. Just look around, it's what's happening in the world right now and what's happening in this country. Like, we can't really make the argument that religion isn't a part of some of these choices.
Yeah.
Right? And so breastfeeding is a strange example, but it's certainly one that I can zero in on all of the time, because you hear those debates because we over-sexualize everything about women.
So I have a cousin who I'm super close to. We hang out all the time. Her husband is like so grossed out by breastfeeding that like all her kids.
Do they? She has kids.
She has 3
with
kids.
him.
With him, and she bottle fed, and he was like, breastfeeding so gross. And I breastfed my kids, and I would breastfeed in front of them, including him. I don't. Give a fuck.
Yeah.
My kid's hungry. They're eating.
Yes.
And he was like, that's so. He would straight up tell me that is so gross, and
to feed my child.
Some people are really offended by it.
He thinks it's
Wild.
disgusting that I should cover up. But I think it's because he views boobs as sexual, where to me it's like, you need to know how to differentiate between sexual and not sexual. Boobs are very sexual.
Yeah.
They can also be non-sexual.
Yeah, they're just a part
Like your
of
vagina
the body.
when you're giving birth, nobody's like, look at that
Yeah.
sexual organ. No, they're like, there's a fucking child.
yeah.
No one's like, I want to put my dick in there. Nobody.
Right?
Yeah. Look at that gape. That's a big gape.
When you're shitting, no one's like, oh, I want to put it in your ass.
Yeah.
No, you're doing a bodily function.
Yeah.
It's not sexual.
Yeah.
But, in the bedroom, you might want to stick it in their ass.
Yeah.
Now, listen, time and place. It can be sexual.
Yeah.
It can be non-sexual. You need to learn how to, differentiate between the two.
Yeah, agreed. It's funny because I wasn't breastfeeding a child, but I was walking through Macy's yesterday, and I had on a white tank top, but I didn't have a bra on, and
I love that.
yeah, so you could probably see my nipples. You probably could. They're just there, but my breasts are fake. I don't need a bra. They just sit up, and a bra would have been weird in that shirt anyway, And but walking through Macy's, you would have thought I was like slaughtering babies with a machete as I was walking through the store. The way these women were looking at me, like
That's a horrible example.
I just wanted to make sure we know that people were disgusted by me.
Fair enough.
And I'm walking, and these women are just like scowling at me, and I'm just like, they're like my arms. You can see my arms too. I hate to break it to you, but it's 95 degrees outside. I want to wear a tank top.
Nudity is also kind of in lump there too, because nudity is not always sexual, but because culture and society have sexualized it to the privacy of the bedroom.
Yeah.
I could see how that might be an extension of the breast in some people's minds, because in a lot of other countries, nudity is pretty common, and beaches are nude, and it's no big deal,
Or
and
at
there's
least topless.
children
At
there.
least topless,
Well,
yeah.
it's even I know that Germany just allowed for topless in city pools.
I
and
love
stuff like
that.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's not that big a deal.
Yes.
But here breasts are kind of in a box. Women are in a box. All of those things, right? And so seeing a naked woman is only about sex.
Yeah.
Right? We market it that way. We talk about it that way in a lot of instances. I mean, pornography and the adult film industry perhaps don't help in that regard. But it's a cultural society thing, I think, bigger than that. Like, there's certainly the porn aspect that's a microcosm of what's happening everywhere else in a lot of ways. But when it comes to nudity and breastfeeding and all that stuff, we over-sexualize the female form, where it would be very unusual to see a naked woman unless you were going to have sex with them. Yeah. Right?
I mean, I would have had sex with any of those ladies in Macy's. Right. You know, they just asked. I mean, fuck. Jeez.
Well, but that could be very threatening.
Tell me when you're going to Macy's again. I'll be there. Yeah. I'm like, you said on air you would fuck me.
Macy's is a strange choice.
I mean,
but okay.
I mean, there's a fitting room.
There's a Nordstrom's there too. We could go. We could go up it.
We'll go in the fitting room to fuck. Dr. Eddie will record. It's fine.
Okay. What are our takeaways? What are our takeaways from this? That women can still be moms and still be hot, still be sexy.
Moms have sex.
Moms have sex,
and we want them to.
All the moms have sex.
Of course they do, but also that we should consider the boxes that we're placing people in.
Yeah.
Because women are complex, just like men are. Men aren't just an erect penis.
Right.
Men They're all not? Of those things.
I'm kidding. Okay.
Perhaps in the industry a lot of the time, but there's complex feelings that motivate and drive that hard erection, right? That we also have to take into account. And so for all of us, I think humans in general are much more complex than we give them credit to. But it's really hard to get out of that like dichotomy box thinking.
Take us out of the boxes. We don't want to be in the boxes. Unless my boxes are rich, fit.
But no one is just rich or just fit or just a sex worker or just a mom.
Yeah.
And so I think having these types of conversations are important because we're starting to see different layers. And I'm so grateful to you, Lexi, for being able to have these like hard conversations that most people don't have, but they're so useful and important because we have to kind of destigmatize some of these ridiculous things.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you are one hot mom, and we are very proud of you and what you've like done and how you've stuck up for yourself. And you know, I think you are a positive influence to your children, to your daughters, and just teaching them, you know, that this is okay. It's not, we're not talking about sex trafficking. We're talking about like chosen sex work, you know? So women are allowed to be sexual. Moms are allowed to be sexual, and you're killing the game. So
something you brought up, I'm like extending this.
No, go. Yeah, by all means.
But something you brought up earlier was you said somebody said to you, oh, what if your daughter was doing this?
Yeah.
And I've had that same comment said to me. And my having two daughters, my honest opinion is like, if you are secure enough in who you are, I think that's super important for the sex industry because you are being vulnerable in the sense that you're getting butt naked, you're having sex. If you're secure enough in who you are, you know your identity, you know your goals, you know what you want in life, and you're not just doing it strictly for money, you're doing it like
with a plan.
A plan, if there's more to it, I'm not against that. Yeah. Now, if my daughter was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, so I'll just do porn, like, I'd be like, dude, no, that's not how life works. That's no. Yeah. But if she was like, you know what, Mom, I thought about it. You know, I want to do porn for X amount of time. Mm-hmm. I want to make this much money. My goal is to do this with my brand. I want to make my brand be this and like blah, blah, blah. And she had more to say to it other than just doing porn. I'd support that. Yeah. I'd support that because it's one thing if it's just like, oh, I'm strictly doing it because I don't know what I want out of life and I want the money. But it's another thing if you're like, hey, I've thought about it. I know who I am as a person. I know my identity. This isn't going to change who I believe I am. I'm doing it because I see these opportunities that I can get through it. And I'll have these opportunities to go here and there and blah, blah, blah. I'd support it. I'd be like, heck yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, you just want to love your kid and make sure that they're happy and healthy. Right. Do you know? So I always say, like, I would, if I did have a kid, I would, obviously, like, want them to try other things. You know, I would want them to, like, be educated and go try something else. Yeah. And if that doesn't work out for you, then, maybe you could get into this. It's not something I would deflect anybody from. I think there's a proper way to do it. And like you said, to have a game plan. So I think that's great. because it's not necessarily like a bad place for all women to be. You know?
We also, well, to talk about boxes one last time, we put people, and there's a lot of like movement that puts the victim kind of, sex workers are always victims, and that's not the case. And that's certainly not the case with a lot of the adult film industry women and entrepreneurs that I know, because these are decisions with educated women that are making 20 times what I make right? And all of those kinds of decisions and brands and entrepreneurship, all of those things aren't considered when you often think about sex work.
Right.
And so having a plan, of course, it's critical. It's the difference between success in the industry and not success, right? I've learned that from all of these conversations. And so the happiness factor, if someone needs or wants to do something and that's what's going to make them happy, it doesn't matter what it is, and it shouldn't matter what it is. But I also do know that a lot of women that have come into it have done it with a very serious plan that are all incredibly successful, yourself included. And so I can't see how that's bad.
Right. I don't either. Yeah. Honestly, I always say it changed my life for the better in so many ways. So yeah, I don't see it as a negative, and I don't think it should be presented as a negative. Do I think it should be presented as a first option? No. But I only think that because of the way that society views us, and it is a lot of mental hardship that you have to get through.
That's,
you know?
And that was part of why I was saying, you need to fully know who you are, because
the mental game.
There's a lot of backlash from just society in general.
Yep. Agreed. Well, you are awesome, and you guys are going to want to look her up. So, Lexi, tell the people where they can find you.
On Instagram, New England _chick.
Awesome. OnlyFans. Yeah, that's probably the best place to search.
XOXO Lexi, definitely the best place to search.
Yeah, agreed. Dr. Eddie, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight to all of these subjects. So thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time, guys. Adios.